Now in this tutorial I'm going to be talking to you about the basics of recording an interview, specifically editing an interview. To begin with, I'm going to create a new project in Garageband, and this time I'm going to create a podcast. Now what Garageband wants me to do is to name it, so I'm going to call this one Fishing with Alex. And I'm going to also make sure to save this into my flash drive. And I've created a folder called Fishing with Alex already on the flash drive, and I'm going to save into that folder. That way I can keep all my files together, and when I submit my file, I'll be able to simply zip that one folder and everything will be contained within it. Now what I've done is open up iTunes. I'm going to begin organizing my media by creating a smart playlist. Now that smart playlist is going to be based on any files with the name Fishing with Alex in the title. Now I'll go ahead and find the folder that I have my interview files in, and I'll simply drag that audio file over into iTunes. And now iTunes has a smart playlist that contains files with Fishing with Alex in the title. Now if we come over into Garageband and go to the audio section of the media browser, and then finally select Fishing with Alex from the playlists, you'll see all of our imported files are available. Now remember, I had you create this project in podcast mode. And the reason I wanted to do that is just to show you how to eliminate tracks that you don't want. So we don't need the podcast track, for example. So we'll go to Track, Delete Track, and it's gone. Now similarly, we have a jingle track and a female voice track. For now, let's go ahead and delete the female voice track and leave the jingle track in place. So our next step is to bring our recordings into the project. So I'll grab Fishing with Alex, drop that over the male voice track, and now it's in place. Now I can slide my track over and make sure that it begins at 0, and I can also use the zoom slider so I can see the entire clip that I've just added. So we've brought our audio in, and really the next step with this project is to go through and preview the material that you've captured. And one of the things you want to do when you're previewing it is you want to start taking note of the changes you want to make to your recording, to your finished product. And those changes will largely be a matter of where to remove items, and even in some cases where to switch things around or to fix little mistakes that happen. So let's go ahead and hear a little clip of our interview with Alex. So this is going to be a quick interview with a colleague of mine who I'll have introduce himself right now. Could you please introduce yourself?
I'm Alex Oquendo.
And could you tell us a bit about where you work?
I work at Dominican University in the IT department, and I'm in charge of all the student workers and all the classroom equipment.
And do you have a specific job title?
My job title is Student Workforce Manager and Lab Coordinator.
Okay, so we've heard a little bit of this recording, and right in that segment I can see there's a couple of things I want to do. First and foremost, as I mentioned, I want to go ahead and identify where I am in the recording and remove myself. So in this first sort of pass and looking at the recording, I'm going to go ahead and find where I'm speaking, and when I'm done speaking, I'm going to go ahead and split that track so that I can later on remove that portion of the recording. So the way to do that is to simply come up here to the scrubber, and we can play it through, and we'll just find the spot where I finish speaking. Who I'll have introduce himself right now. Could you please introduce yourself? Okay. Now I went ahead, I know that's where I'm done talking, and I can find the exact moment where there's silence between when I'm speaking and when Alex is speaking. There's a few ways I can do that. The best way is to go ahead and let the player go and then stop it right when I stop speaking. And by the way, you can stop and start the player by pressing the space bar on your keyboard. Okay, and I'm going to come over here to the lower left hand side, and I'm going to zoom, which is to say get a close-up of where that playhead is. So I zoomed over here to the right to get it close in, and now I'm found the playhead, and you can see where there are no sound waves here, where the line is relatively flat, that represents silence, or something pretty close to silence. So I'm going to go ahead and move my playhead right over to that spot. And now to split the playhead, there's two ways I can do that. The first way is to go up to Edit and select Split. And so now it actually splits this track into two clips. One is active, the one on the left, and the one on the right is not. The other way to do this is to simply hit Command T on your keyboard, and that will also split the track. Now, I mentioned one track is active and one is not, which is to say one is highlighted and darker and one is not. What that means is right now, for example, if I hit the delete button, I would actually delete this active highlighted portion. Now I don't want to do that right now, but that's just to point out to you that whatever tracks are highlighted, those are the tracks, or the clips rather, that are highlighted. Those are the clips that will receive whatever command you give to Garageband. So you want to be careful of that and aware of that. So now what I want to do is continue to go along and find the spots in which I'm speaking and the spots in which Alex is speaking. And again, just for time, we'll go ahead and just listen to a little more of this. Okay, I'm Alex Oquendo. I'm going to go ahead and find that spot. And I want to make sure that this is the active segment when I give my split command. So I'll just come over here and touch it with my mouse, and now this is active. And again, I'm going to use my keyboard and go Command T and split the track there. So now this is Alex speaking. And could you tell us a bit about where you work? Again, I'm going to find the spot where I finish speaking. I'm going to make sure that this is the active track, and I will hit Command T to split it. Okay, he's finished speaking there. And you see where I'm going with this. I'll just keep splitting it. I'm going to find where I stop speaking. Again, Command T to split. Okay, so again, I'll go back, find that spot, put another split. All right. So now we've gone through and isolated all of the specific vocal sections on this track. So you can see the smaller ones are probably me and the larger ones are probably Alex giving his response. And the next thing I want to do is I'm going to create a backup copy of what I've done here. That way, as I start to make changes later on, I always have a version of this recording with all of these edits that I've made available for me, so I can go back and rearrange things if I need to. Okay, it's just a little bit of insurance. So one of the things you'll want to do is, I'm going to give myself a little room here. I'm going to close this window so I can see the whole track. Okay, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to create a duplicate of this particular track. Okay, so I'll click on the track title there and go to Track, Duplicate Track. Okay, so now I've got this new, it's an empty track, but it does have any settings that may have been in the previous track. Okay, now the next thing I'll do is I want to make sure that all of the regions or clips, if you will, inside of the main track, the original, have been selected. I'll go to Edit, Copy. Now I'll bring my playhead to the very beginning of the recording, and I can do that by dragging it over, of course, or I can come down here and select the Go to the Beginning of the Song button. Okay, and that brings my playhead there. And the reason I want to do that is because now I'm going to go to Edit, Paste, and the pasted regions will start right where the playhead was at previously. Now if I had had the playhead over here, then the pasting would have begun at this spot, and obviously we didn't want that. Okay. Last two things we need to do is we'll take that original track and let's go ahead and rename it so we know that it's the original. So I'll double click on the title and I'll call this Master or Original or whatever you want, just something relevant. Okay, and then last but not least, I'm going to lock this track. And if you don't see this lock icon right here, then you'll want to go up to Track and make sure that the Show or Hide Track Lock option has been selected. And we'll hit that. And now I can't make any changes to that track. Now, you might have noticed that Alex hesitated a bit, and I actually, just after he says that, I mentioned that, oh, we can fix it, don't worry about it. So let's actually focus a little bit on that. Let's find that spot where Alex is hesitating when he speaks.
Student Workforce Manager and Lab Coordinator.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is zero in on that spot. Okay. Now you can see here we had this wide view of the whole clip in the top section in the track view. Down here in the audio region view, we actually are zoomed in. We can see quite a lot of detail on the track. So we can see this is really the spot where Alex hesitated. So if we wanted to, and in reality we probably wouldn't necessarily clean up a mistake like this, but I want to demonstrate how you would change the way something sounds. I'm going to go ahead and again split the track right there and find that spot where Alex starts to hesitate. Let's try right there. And again, I'm just basing this on what I can see on screen. Again, Command T. And then I'm going to go ahead and select that right there and get rid of it. And let's see what happens when we do that.
My job title is Student Workforce Manager and Lab Coordinator. Great.
Okay, now what you can see right there is it sounds a little better. That hesitation comes out of it. Now, I really just did that not so much to show you how to make everybody sound perfect when they're speaking, so much as I wanted to show you an example of a common editorial task, which is taking a little segment from a clip and pulling it away. Now the next thing I'll do is actually go through and listen to more or less the entire recording and start to get a sense of the specific areas that I want to deal with. But I'll do that first and then come back and join you in a moment.